Hello and welcome to the channel Let's Automate. We recently released Control Room Admin Utility Bot on Automation Anywhere Bot Store. You can download that now using the link in the description below. With the package, when you install it, you get 14 ready to use task bots available. In this video, we are going to go through each of these tasks one by one. You don't have to sit through the entire video. In the description, I will leave a link which can take you directly to the topic of your interest so you can move to and fro throughout the video. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, let's get started. So we got 14 different task bots available in the package. We'll go through one by one. The first one is authentication token generation. This is the most basic or the most important taskbar available. Now, I would like to point out here that you can swap the code from each of these tasks with one another. So if you want to club, maybe you want to get device list and deployment list and bot list all in one single task, all you got to do is just copy paste that metabot logic. The reason why we've split it into different tasks is because we've added a lot of comments so that you understand each of the logic better, and then once you have a hang of it, you can club them together and maybe create one big master bot, right? So the first one is for authentication token generation. We've already put our details in the locker, so we've already created uh, a demo credentials locker on our credential vault, and it has got the attribute of username, password, and control room URL. Now we highly recommend you put these details onto a locker on credentials vault, but technically you can also use local variables on your task bots and use them from there. You'd also need to provide an access code which you'll get on your email when you order from the bot store or when you begin your 30-day free trial. The authentication token, as listed, is the output of this particular task, and license validation is basically a license validation stating whether or not you're still in that free 30-day period. Okay, so it's a simple metabot logic. We'll go ahead and quickly give this a run. You don't have to do a lot for this one. Okay, so we got a valid token ID. All you got to do is map your control room your control room URL and the administrative credentials for that. You can map these with different variables, but we've listed them we've named them in this manner so that it's easy to understand. Okay, the second bot on the list is generating license dashboard and sending email for control rooms before version 11.3.4. Now there is a manual step, a quick step before we do that, because uh, Automation Anywhere released their license API with version 11.3.4. Before any version before that did not have this API available, and hence there is no way to find out what is the count of your purchase licenses. So in this case, uh, on the same folder, the folder which gets created when you install the bot, you have something known as the input folder. You can open the configuration file and update the count of bots or the count of licenses that you have purchased. Now for my case, I will go ahead and update each as 10 for now. All right, now if you see here, the same logic for authorization token is mapped already here, so we don't need to do that. The second logic is for license dashboard. So in this one, all you have to do is map your locker or map your credentials for control room URL. The output folder is by default created. These variables are reinitialized based on the configuration file that we just updated. So let's hit save. Now you have variables for email from, to, the copy list, subject, whether you want to include the attachment of the extract or not, and if there is any email body that you'd like to include in the email. So I filled them up already. You'll see the next logic for sending the email. These are pretty straightforward. Subject, copy from output folder is where you'd have all your output files for all the logic. So it's a common folder. Then you can put in who do you want to send the email, whether you want to include the attachment, and what body do you want. You'd see license validation and access code as a common variable across each of the task files, and you'd have more details on the readme file about these variables. Okay, so let me save this file and quickly give this a run. You can see it barely takes few seconds to complete a task. Let me go back to my mailbox, and you can see I have the dashboard available. So it says development license, the purchase count, which we updated in the configuration file, and out of that, how many of them are available. We have the control room URL. It also has the CSV file, so just in case you want to build a dashboard of your own out of this. Okay, let's go to the third task. This is very interesting because with version 11.3.4 you got this license API, and I've been really excited to use it. Now, if you notice that each of the task file has got instructions as a comment, so I do recommend you read them when the first time when you're using them, because that's going to help you understand each of the logic, what type of output it creates, what are the prerequisites, and so on. Okay, so if you see, each of the taskbar will have this first logic, which we've already seen. Let's go to the logic for creating the dashboard Excel. Let me go ahead and quickly map my credential vault for control room URL. I got everything else that I need here. I'm using same information for sending the email for this dashboard as well. So let me save this and let me give a quick run. Okay, just take a few more seconds. All right, let's go back to our email. All right, there it is for version 11.3.4. So if you see, this dashboard is very extensive. It has got the details of your control room URL, what type of license you use, what is the installation date, expiration date, what is the version of the control room, and analytics. Gives you more details of each of the licensed entity as well, along with the license count unit, licensing model, and so on. Again, like the previous one, it also has an Excel attached to it, so just in case you want to use it. All right, so now the fourth bot is to get the list of users. This basically extracts all the lists, extracts a list of users on the control room, and you can put a filter on what type of users you want to extract, but by default it will extract only the users which are enabled on the control room. Now you can modify these filters. I will leave a link in the description for applying filters on API calls, and the README file that is included in the package also has this link available in it. So the fourth task, again, to get the list of users, we have the same authentication token logic, and in the next logic, which is to get the user list, we've mapped the variable again for the control room, API body, access code, and the common ones. Let me give this a quick run. Okay, now if you see here, it says this is the output file. So let us quickly check if that file is created. Go to the output folder. Okay, yep, there it is. So we've got the list of all the users on the control room. There some more information like whether they've registered, their devices, if the password's set, if the email is verified, what is the email address, and what type of description, when was it created, updated, if they have a license, then what type of license, and so on. So the next task is to extract the list of user, which we did in the previous task, but in two separate files of active and inactive. This will be calculated based on the audit log available on the control room. You would need to set the number of days to offset. So basically, what you need to do here on line number 32 is give a number of days. So let's say any user who do not have activity for 7 days, you want to deem them or tag them as inactive. So you give the number as 7. If you want that number to change, like maybe 14, 15, or maybe 30 days, you can change them accordingly in the task here. Now we have an additional logic to get offset date, which means the date, let's say you put 7 days, uh, Automation Anywhere need to figure out what that particular date is from today. So let's say today, if it was 7th of January today and you give it the number as 7, then it should find out the 1st of January. Now how does it find that? I've built a common or a simple logic to use PowerShell. You can use any metabot available on the bot store for date and time operations and find this as well. But I'd like to use PowerShell, so I've just created an additional logic here which you can use, and that's the one that we're going to use in this demonstration as well. To run the logic, uh, again, you need to map the control room URL either from a local variable or from your credentials vault. The rest we've already mapped for you. You'll see two output files here for active and inactive users. So let's quickly save and give this a run. Just on the bot. Right, so you see it would open command the PowerShell. It gives you a prompt, what is the date which it had found, and any user created after that date is not calculated obviously for as active and inactive because they've been just created within this period of time. So let's go back to our output folder and we see, let's see, inactive user. Ooh, okay, I think all of my users are inactive. All right, so maybe we're not using that control room that often. Yep. So none of the users are listed active and all the users are listed as inactive. Now again, if you face this issue and if you feel that this is something which is wrong, maybe a user you feel is active but it's showing up as inactive, a quick tip is to go to the control room, go to audit log, look if there is any audit for that, if there is any log for that user in the past 7 or 14, whatever number of days you've set as offset. So check that, and I'm sure you wouldn't find any log if the user is listed as inactive. But that's a tip to confirm whether the information is active or not. Okay, so the next bot is for license deallocation or revoke license. If you can see, fairly simple code. There are two things that you would need to revoke a license. That is the control room ID of the user whose license you want to deallocate, and their email address. Now you don't need to go to the control room if you can you can use the logic of extracting user list. So we'll be going to use that. So if, let's see, this is our user list. We will go ahead and okay, let me expand this. All right, so we'll go ahead and revoke license from one of the users. Let's say user 8. So that's the user's ID is the first column. So we'll take the ID as 15. Okay, let's put this variable as 15. We'll also need the email address. So let's get email address for this user. Let's go ahead and map the control room URL, the usual, from our credentials vault. You'd also get a message box whether the operation was successful or not. It will also log the details on a tracker, so just in case you want to audit the license deallocation or allocation in future. So let's quickly give this a run. All right, so it says success. Let's quickly confirm. The ID 15 was for user 8. So let's go back to the control room and let's see if the license was actually revoked from this user. Okay, yep, we see that they've got other license now. So let's go back. Let me close this. Let's use the next tasks. Now, the revoke license loop and allocate license loop are basically the same code. Instead of the ID and the email, you can map it with a CSV file. So let me quickly show that to you. Right, you see here, instead of email address, you can map the column from the Excel or from CSV file that you're using, and also the same for CRID. So we're not going to look into these two task pods. We'll quickly get on to the allocate license and try and allocate the license to the same user, which is user 8. On the control room, we can see they currently have other or no license. So we'll go ahead and license for allocation. We'll put the same license again. Now we'll go ahead and change their email as well. Okay, now we want to give them, let's say, a runtime license. Okay, we will go ahead and map the control room. Oops. All right, just like deallocation, you'd also get a message box whether it was success or error. It will also maintain a tracker with the information just in case you want to audit this again. So let me save and quickly give this a run. All right, it says success. Let's go back to the control room. As we can see, the user 8 is other. I'm sure we will be logged out, so let me log in again. We'll see if this user has been allocated a runtime license now. There it is, bot runner. Okay, let's go back to the next task. So next task on the list is licensed user activity dashboard and sending an email. So again, there are two parts to this. One, logic creates an Excel output file, and the second one to send an email. Just like all the use cases or all the tasks, the first logic is to get the authorization token, and the next one is where we would create an activity dashboard. Now the D1, D2, D3 and D4 is the number of days that you'd want to show up in your dashboard. So we have an option to choose from four or set up four different dates. So by default we've set up as 7, 14, 21 and 30, which means it will look for user activity or users who are active within 7 days, 14 days, 21 days and 30 days. Okay, so let's go ahead and check what else we need on this task. So again, to send an email, the variables are same: email from, to, copy, subject, whether or not you want to include attachment, so it's a yes or a no, and then an email body if you'd like. The logic variables are already mapped up for sending an email as well, so let's give this one a quick run. So it will run PowerShell commands with the number of days that you've put in as variables to identify the offset date, just like the previous task. So okay, it created a dashboard and also send it, and all right, we got that as well. Let's open this. You can see it lists all the users who've got license on the control room, and because we use the default option for 7, 14, 21 and 30 days, it says it looks at the activity on 7 days. So none of my users are active in the last 7 days, none of them are active in the last 14 days either. 21, there's a couple of users who've been active in last 30 days. So this helps a center of excellence to identify the license, the licenses which are allocated are being used appropriately, or if the license are just allocated and in an idle state. You also have the attachment in a CSV format, which again you can use in any further customization or any further use cases that you can think of. It also has the control room URL along with the username, the type of licenses they have. Let's go to the next task. The next task is to get list of bots. What this basically does is gets you the list of ATMX or robot files which are uploaded onto your control room. Again, like every other task, the first logic is to get authorization token. Very important, line number 32 is the API body. If you want to filter anything uh, in the list, like maybe you want to filter with device ID or device name or maybe robot name or anything, any sort of filter that you want to apply, you can use the API body variable and pass that as a filter. In this demonstration, we're just going to extract all the robots that are available on this control room. I'm sure there aren't many. So we've mapped the variable like all the other tasks. Let me go ahead and give this a quick run. And there it is. Let's go to the output folder. We have the list of robots. So I have how many? Okay, I got about 5 robots on my control room. These are the unique IDs that you see on row number or column number 1. And then you have some information about the last modification, the path of the robot, size, whether they're locked or not, when was it last modified or when was it last updated, and whether or not these task bots are protected. So again, this can be sent as an email if required, or can be plugged into any other custom use cases. Similarly, you can extract the list of devices and list of deployments as well. So let me quickly open the task files. You'd see it's very similar to extracting the bot list, where you have logic 1, then you have an API body, and then you map your variables here. Let me quickly give this one a run. Okay, let's see here. All right, so I have 4 devices registered. In fact, all of them are my local computer, but different users have used them at different point of time. So that's why we see a unique combination of devices versus the IDs that are being used. Go to the next task, which is list of deployments. You can also use it to, it's pretty much list of executions that you do from your control room. Again, any filter, you'd put it in API body and you map the variables. Let me give this one a run. Not much change is required on these bots where you need to just get a list extracted. So let's go here. Okay, so each deployment have a unique ID, and the utility bot extracts that as well. So you have automation name, file name, path, start and end date, status. If in case of an error, you can see that, and then user ID, which user basically executed this, then device, which device the bot was run on. You can also see what was the command here, and some more information about the deployment. All right, let's go to the next task. Right, number 12, very important. If you're a control room administrator, you've got to keep a track of what files and folders you have on your control room. And to do that manually, it's a very hideous task. But with this task file, you can do this within seconds. Again, if there is any filters that you want to put, you can put it on line 33 under API body variable. But otherwise, you just have to map the variables with reading the description of each of them. You also have more details on the readme file, but let's give this one a run. Okay, let's see. Yep, there it is. All right, so you can see here it has all the folders that I have along with the file. So you can see I have bot store folder, then under my task I've got these. uploaded, and I have a test2 folder, and I've uploaded task2 ATMX onto that one, and you also see the last modified details. So all of these outputs are in a CSV format, which means you can easily plug these files as an input to any custom use cases that you might want to automate. Okay, so the next bot is for deploying a task or deploying a bot. There's a slight change to this one. The first step or the first part of the bot remains the same, where you get an authorization token. Now, to deploy a bot, what you need is a bot ID and a device ID. And if you open the API body variables, you don't need to modify this will be automatically filled. But the reason why I've given you access to modify this further is because sometimes you might have more than one device or more than one bot that you want to orchestrate, and I wanted to give you a free hand on that so that you could choose how many bots on how many devices you want to implement or orchestrate. So that's a good option. Again, each of these variables have definite description, so you can read them and map this. Currently, since we're logged in as a creator ID, we will not be able to deploy bot onto this computer. So we'll go ahead and switch to the next task. All right, the last task is request bot progress. What this particular task does is gets you an update or a real-time information of the bot execution that you might have performed. This can be very useful if you have a certain bot which are high priority and you want to set up a monitoring system where something constantly monitors, maybe every 15 minutes or 20 minutes, something constantly monitors whether the bot has an error or if it is at 100% successful rate. So again, here you would need the file ID and the device ID to track a particular deployment. You don't have to open the control room again. What you can do is use the get bot list logic to get the file ID and get device list logic to get the device ID. You can also get this information from the control room, but we're trying to keep everything onto the local machine. Now, the good thing about using these two logics here is that you can use the logic right above, or you could probably map it to the same task bot and then use the file data column variables to map file ID and device ID. And then you can track them using the logic number 14. All right, so let me quickly check one bot from the bot list. Let's say bot number 12, or let's check the deployment file. That would give us a more detailed information. So we see file ID here and device ID. So just for demonstration, let's take file ID as 12 and device ID as 4. Okay, let's see here, file ID. Was it 4? I don't know. Yep, device ID was 3. So let's take it as 3. All right, let's save this and give it a run. Okay, you can see the status is updated and put on a CSV file. So this is the bot progress. Let's open that file, and there it is. So all the deployments for file ID 12, which means master task, on the device number 3 will be listed here. Again, if you put a filter here, you can see, let's say, deployments within a month or last few days and so on. But I just wanted to pull out all the information to demonstrate. So all the deployments on device ID 3 for this particular task file will be captured on this particular CSV file. Now, if you're doing this on a real-time basis, you can do a read from file, the CSV file, and if file data column for the status says error, you could quickly shoot out an email or maybe a Slack message. So it makes it a more robust ecosystem to monitor. those are the 14 tasks available in the package with Control Room Admin Utility. Each of these tasks have instructions within them. So when you download them and when you try to open them, you could go ahead and read the instructions, map the variable accordingly. Each variable has the description which is required for you to understand and execute each of the tasks. Also, you have a README file available in the bot folder, which means you can just go through that, understand how you can configure this bot, and make sure you're able to use it to 100% capability. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. Do like this video, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.